This is a tape-recorded phone conversation with Gunnar Johansen on the 31st of March, 1984.
And was that the first such program in the country, or had there been any predecessors at all?
As far as I know, the first.
I see. So if I write that you were the first...
Yeah, in other words, they pioneered that here at Wisconsin. They certainly deserve credit for that.
Okay.
But the thing was in the air, because you see they had already started with the painter. Did I tell you that? John Stuart Curry to the university in 1937, and I came in 39. So that it had already begun, and other artists in residence in the arts, as is in painting, were Thomas Benton at Kansas and Grant Wood at the Iowa University.
Okay. Secondly, skipping over to the subject of hydrogen energy,
yeah,
you mentioned a farmer in Iowa, I think John Lorenzen.
That's correct.
Something like this. Can I have the spell? May I use his name? Do you?
Absolutely.
Okay. May I have the spelling?
Lorenzen.
What? Since I'm not a scientist, you'll have to bear with me, but
yeah,
what exactly has he done that's distinctive? He's able to utilize a 20% water mixture in his gasoline.
That would be right. You see what he has done. For years, he has been generating his own electricity and never bought a single kilowatt from the electric company. But he made that with his windmills. So he began some while ago, I think maybe 10 years ago already, to make hydrogen, which he stores and can use, you see?
Okay, do you know does he make it through electrolysis?
Exactly, by way of electrolysis. And the windmills support the juice, see?
I see, so his windmills, they produce the electricity which makes the electrolysis possible.
Right.
Then he stores the hydrogen and uses it in the auto? Or does he actually do that under the hood?
Yeah, this was a secondary thing. To begin with, he just simply stored the hydrogen and used it around the house and around the farm. And then later on, he used the alternator in the car. You know, there is such a thing, an alternator, that supplies the lights and whatever else is needed that's run electrically in the car. And that he used then also, since the alternator is more capable than running the light system, so that he used that to electrolyze the water, which he introduced under the hood. And he had only a small quantity of it. Ultimately, it will call for much more than an alternator. It might call for a whole group of alternators, you see, to step up the percentage to gasoline.
I asked a chemist or two, or an amateur chemist about that, and she thought that the great difficulty there is that getting the energy from hydrogen in the conventional reaction takes more energy going in than you get out.
This is what the academicians have been saying. I just read a paper this morning that had to do with research that's been carried out. I believe it was down in Arizona. And they were saying the same thing, that it is a very cheap way of getting hydrogen. But the common thing is that they say, you see, if you use a windmill, after all, it's free. Once the windmill is installed, it's free, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is where the advantage. But if you were to do it, maybe in a different fashion, and get it through power, although I know that you can buy an electrolyzer from the Billings Corporation that you can have in your garage or under your house, and you can produce by using the current from your power company, by using that for electrolysis overnight, see?
So if you use the, let's say the windmill technology, it may in fact theoretically take more energy to produce the hydrogen there, but that doesn't concern you because it's just wind energy. Is that the correct?
That would be about right.
Yeah, in other words, it's...
Since
the
energy costs you nothing.
Yeah, it's from nature itself.
Yeah.
So I wanted to clarify that a little bit before I tried to write about it.
But this is an erroneous notion
Mm-hmm.
that it costs more.
Okay.
Because I want to tell you that what they advertised at Billings was that it would produce for 150 cents current overnight. It would produce for you several hundred miles of driving.
When you say Billings, who's this?
Billings is the man in America who has done more with the bringing hydrogen for automobiles into the reality than anyone.
Okay, he's a University of Arizona?
No, Billings is an independent man who is an industrialist, a youngish man who was in Provo, Utah, but is now also with headquarters in Independence, Missouri, which is the twin city of Kansas City, you know.
Does he have his own corporation?
That's right. The Billings Corporation, it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, you could write to him or you could call him.
Okay. Now, really, switching tacks again for a minute, I wanted to talk about Busoni. And I have a lot of your reminiscences of him, but I was just extra curious about that one occasion, which I think you said was in June of 24, where you met him several weeks before he died. Could you tell me what the circumstances were and what happened at that time, as you remember it?
Yes, indeed I can. It's as clear as can be in my mind, of course. I was brought there by a man who has since he died last year. His name was Dr. Friedrich Schnapp, Schnapp. And I had already the year before, in 1923, given the first performance of Busoni's revised Chopin variations.
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Busoni was present for this. So Busoni, through Petri and his wife, already knew about me because I had been several years with Petri. That was one condition that made it possible for the suggestion that I should be confronted with Busoni, you know, and he should meet me, and he was very, very kind.
Mm-hmm.
Very kind and interested in everything, and we spoke a lot about we spoke about what had interested me in the way of my studies, and we spoke about Chopin, and he spoke about his experiences in Denmark and friends in Denmark and such.
Mm-hmm.
And as he was lying there on the bed from which he was not to really rise, because he died 6 weeks later, he when I first came in to him, he said, before I entered the room, tell Johansen that I look like Don Quixote in the third act after he has done battle, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Something to that effect, he said.
Mm-hmm. Do you recall anything specific?
Yeah, he was only 58 years old, you know, when he died, and he looked very, very much older.
Yeah.
He had also a beard at that time. Otherwise, he was shaven. You know, he had only a beard in the early part of the century.
I've seen an older picture of him with a beard. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten his biography here as a result of meeting you, and I've been.
Isn't that fascinating?
It's extraordinarily fascinating. That's why I really wanted to know about this meeting between the two of you. Do you recall any particular observations about music or art that he made at that time that you met him?
Yes, I do. We talked about the Chopin ballades, and he said to him the fourth ballade was the weakest. I have never been able to see that myself. But he had his own rationale for that. I never understood that, because I think that all four of them, we would be much poorer without any of them, huh? But he came off with observations of that nature, you know, that often puzzled me. I also have a letter of his that was written to the father of the lady who gave me all the Liszt music I told you about, Bonacossa, Countess Bonacossa.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, she gave me 2 letters written from Busoni to her father. And one was written just after Armistice. And in there he speaks with great hope for a new kind of situation in Europe that will be different than just following the pattern of successful America, where they, after all, were pursuing the Indians, or really had exterminated the Indians, is the word he uses. Exterminator of Indians, and pursue the Negroes. He was very conscious of that when he traveled in America. And you know that there's also his involvement with the subject of the Indian themes in his Indian diary. So that was one thing. And another letter to him that was written about a year later, where Bonacossa's father, that was Casanova. He was Marquis de Casanova, and he writes to Busoni, evidently, with great enthusiasm about Wilhelm Kempf. You know the name?
Of course.
Yeah, Wilhelm Kempf. And his prowess as an improviser. And Busoni writes back and tells him, here's the opinion again, just like with the fourth ballade, that he doesn't think that anything of import could come out of the act of improvisation, because how, he qualifies, how could something that you sit down with great pains and deliberation and compose, and much of that not qualifying as worthwhile, how could something that comes out of the spur of the moment be worthwhile? You see what he's saying?
Yeah. It is a strange rationale, but I guess there's some logic to it.
Oh, yes, there's a logic to that.
Yeah.
There's a logic to that, but I hope that with all my improvisations, you haven't heard any of those, have you?
Yes.
I gave you some cassettes, did I?
Yes, you did.
Well, then you have heard.
Sure.
Then you know that oftentimes as I listen back to this, I say to myself, now, was that one of the... See, I don't know what the content is. I just roll one of these cassettes. And there's so much in there that I am not fully acquainted with all my children, see?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I say, well, now, was that an improvised thing or what? So that I don't feel that they necessarily are wayward or weak structurally, though they are unpremeditated. I think that... Well, I'll tell you this, of course, improvisation as such had really gotten throttled when the printing presses in music started to whir. Because there was so much to appeal to the eye and to the studying mind in music that you then got preoccupied with that part rather than the initial encouragement there was traditionally to indulge in improvisation. Not only indulge, but develop it.
That may have taken some of the urge to improvise. I wanted to speak with you about your Liszt recordings also.
Yeah.
First of all, when exactly did you begin that?
The Sesquicentennial. That was 1961. And that was exactly when I had done the last part of the Bach. I did I think the Art of the Fugue, I did probably in 61. And I came to a close with that in the summer. And I went abroad, I remember, and I had already been preparing. No, it must have been in 60 when I finished the Art of the Fugue. And I was still that was album 19, and I was still working on 20. And then I began simultaneously to work on this, because after all, it was the 150th year of his birth in 61.
Yes.
And I had 6 recitals coming at the university.
Did you see yourself recording all of the music?
I was planning to record the original works, and you can see how that is reflected in the content. I gave you the catalog, did I?
Sure, and so the transcribed works come towards the end.
That's correct. After 25, in other words, when I'm halfway through, then it begins to be weighted with the other. Someone wrote, you know who Vieira, the South American pianist, is?
What's the name?
Vieira.
No, I don't know the name.
He is from, he's from Buenos Aires, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He is a student I just learned of Louis Kent.
In London.
Yeah, in London, right. And he has been contracted by RCA down in Buenos Aires to do the complete list. And he wrote a letter to the fanfare asking why I included certain things and on the other hand excluded other things, like the Beethoven symphonies.
Mm-hmm.
And I answered this last summer, but I didn't know that it appeared, and it is in the do you have access to the fanfare?
Yeah, I can take a look at it. It's in, if you'll give me the issue, I could go to the library.
Let's see, it's got to be the issue in November, December.
Of this past year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I overlooked it, but somebody said, oh, there's your article in there. Otherwise, I could send a copy to you, because I have...
If it's not too much trouble, that would be nice.
I'll do that.
If not too much trouble, yeah, I'd like to receive that.
Do you have the other article that appeared in fanfare?
I have one by Adrian Corleone.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Is that the same? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that he is has been writing a Busoniad?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I don't know where it will come. I think it may come in fanfare, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
so
what is the address?
My address is 7323 North Paulina. That's Paulina. And
you know that that was the name of Liszt's servant?
No, that I didn't know.
Yeah, Pauline. Pauline was Liszt's servant in Weimar. And she was still alive when I visited there in 1924.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yes, I met her. Yeah, Pauline.
I bet she had things to tell.
Well, I was not smart enough, I guess, to invite, but what she said to me, you can go over and play the master's piano, but it hasn't been tuned since he died out of veneration for him. So I had the privilege of playing Liszt piano then, and now it has been redone, and I was there with Lorraine. We were there in '67, and I played it again. The Bechstein Concert Grand it was.
Yeah.
Is
comparable to a modern instrument?
Yes. Really not to be told apart. They had already settled for what is characteristic of modern Bechstein.
What we would see today.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Very much.
Okay. Now, on the Liszt project, it was your original intent to start off with the original solo works?
This is what I did.
And this is what you did?
Yeah.
And how did you organize it? I mean, that's a fearsome task. Did you have any special regimen that you put yourself under?
No, not really. Not really.
Just took them as they came?
Yes, for instance, album 1 have the Harmonie Poétique et Religieuse,
yes,
which I think is kind of central to all of Liszt, the poetic and the religious element. So I thought that was fine. And also there comes the Christmas tree, which is another subject.
Yes.
That's characteristic of his feelings. And of course there was no chronological intent at all, because the Christmas tree was as late as 77. So after that I played the big works, the Ad Nos Fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what this South American pianist said to me in his query, why did I include that? After all, it's Busoni's transcription. Yeah, well, what he doesn't know is that the At-Nose Fantasy was written for a 3-keyboard piano. Do you know of that?
Yes,
A 3-keyboard piano that Liszt had envisioned in 1838, and of which he took delivery finally when he was, in funds with the good help of the Princess Wittgenstein in 1850, and that was the year the At-Nose Fantasy was composed. Do you know the At-Nose Fantasy? Yeah, it's a tremendous work. As a matter of fact, Sitwell has a biography of Liszt, huh?
Yeah, that I know very well.
Yeah. He says in there that to him, that he prefers it to the sister piece, which is the B minor sonata.
That's in the Sitwell biography.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that biography, by the way?
Oh, very much.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think it's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Many references to Busoni in it, too.
Yeah, I was reading them last night, in fact. He discusses Busoni and Rubinstein and Paderewski as being the only people that could really be mentioned in the same breath.
Yeah, he has written to me. I haven't heard from him for quite a while now, but he has written repeatedly to me. And I was so happy to hear from him because I so admire what he had done in the name of Liszt.
I'm surprised to hear that he's still alive.
I wouldn't know now if he is. I hadn't heard any to the contrary, though, because it would seem to me that through the Liszt Society I would know the London Society.
Yeah. When did you finish the project?
76, Christmas 76.
That must have been an extraordinary feeling to have done it all in, 15 years that comes to?
Yeah, it was a heavy siege.
Yeah. No.
As I told you that I never claimed that it was a complete, but it is certainly complete enough to make a most valid testimony to what his output was. I also say that the reason I do not include the Beethoven symphonies is simply that we have heard the Beethoven symphonies with such frequency and such excellence, and that when you begin to try to do that on the piano, it is no longer a needed mission as it was at that time.
In other words, the intent of those works was to present the Beethoven symphonies to the public.
Very much like he did with the Schubert songs, Mm-hmm. They were not known. Liszt is the one that made the Schubert songs known throughout Europe in the 40s, 50s. And 40s, of course, is when he traveled.
And aren't they transcribed in a freer way, a more creative way than the symphonies?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the symphonies, the degree of respect that he had for Beethoven, which was on to his last days, like the God in music, rendered it, of course, absolutely imperative that he come as close to the original intent, the Schubert songs. But of course, there he goes on the poetic side, reflecting the content of the text.
Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Leonardo Academy.
Yeah.
And to know if a little bit more in particular what's been going on there, or if it's active now, or...
It is not as active as it has been because we, first of all, the man who was vice president was able to come up for several big meetings that we had with funds. And you know what the Arthur Davis Vining Foundation is?
No.
Well, they're the ones that gave us the Bronowski series, Ascent of Man. The Arthur Vining Davis Foundation. They are in Florida. I had never any personal touch with them, but undoubtedly it would be a good way of going if we start to reach for some funds again for a meeting. I'm very eager to have a meeting on the subject, as I might have told you, of one coin for the world.
International currency.
International currency, yeah.
So, when you do have the meetings, are they at your estate in California?
No, they have been at Sea Ranch, which is 10 miles south of there, and they hosted a great many of our early conferences.
When did they begin? When were they?
72.
And, for example, I read that you had Buckminster Fuller there.
That's right.
What was that conference all about?
We had him for several conferences. He was there for several conferences. The last one was on energy as most of them had in energy and cancer research.
Is the intent of the conferences that the people who participate will then go back into their whatever research work they're doing with some new ideas and new directions?
You would hope that something would emerge like that, but in the case of a man like Buckminster Fuller, he was already going in his direction. Whatever he would appear, he would certainly rouse a great deal of thought in others. And what I had hoped and aimed for was to get people superior gifts and intellect and accomplishments together, and that's still the aim.
When he was there, for just taking him as an example, who were some of the other participants? Students, graduate students, or anybody?
No, they were chiefly scholars. There were several people from the Livermore Lawrence Laboratory. You know Livermore?
Yeah, that was mentioned in what you gave me.
And Edward Teller was there. Edward Teller was there for about, I think he was there for two meetings, two various meetings we had. And he really locked horns with Buckminster Fuller. He was very harsh on him.
I can imagine. There seems to be a polarity there that would make that kind of thing inevitable. Do you recall any particular thoughts that Fuller expressed at that time that were interesting to you?
Of course, we had been together quite a few times before. He had come to our meetings when we had something that antedated the Leonardo Academy called A University Without Walls. And that took place, hosted by the University of Southern Illinois. They're located in Carbondale, and we would go up to Pierre Marquette Park opposite St. Louis, and where they had beautiful quarters for just such meetings. And Buckminster Fuller came several times to these gatherings, because you see, he was at Edwardsville, in other Illinois campus, state university campus.
I think that's where Western Illinois is, or Eastern.
I would say Western.
Western, yes.
Yeah. You know who is there? Ruth Slensinska.
That's right, yes, in Carbondale, yes.
Not Carbondale, but at Edwardsville.
Oh, at Edwardsville, okay.
And that is where Buckminster Fuller was at home for quite a while. But he was also at Carbondale, you're right.
So you met him at that time in Illinois, and then brought him out, he came out to the Leonardo Academy for further meetings then?
As a matter of fact, he came via India. He had just been to talk to Indira Gandhi. They were hiring him to plan their air traffic in the airports in India. So he had some interesting things to say about that.
So you had him and Edward Teller there, and is there anything currently going on, or anything planned in the near future?
Yeah, well, what we'll be doing steadily is the research with the hydrogen, and I just got a slew of papers that I'm going to deliver over across the valley here to a friend, an engineering friend. Maybe I spoke to you about that, and his very, very gifted son. As a matter of fact, he is starting in either today or tomorrow to construct a new Savonius rotor, which promises tremendous addition to the armaments we have in the way of wind power. So it's a very highly efficient and a very simple to construct device that we are thinking will be ideal on top of silos, and would make, if they were as big around, they would be like a carousel, I could say, on top of the silo. Maybe 10 feet tall and 16 to 20 foot diameter. And if I tell you that an oil drum, two oil drums on top of each other, in other words, two 55-gallon drums, will easily keep a house in electricity. So you could imagine what a thing like that would do. So that's what we are going after. So I feel we are really on a very positive track.
Will he receive funding through the Academy, or what?
We are in hopes of getting funds. We have a source, private source, that seems interested in supporting this research.
So the Leonardo Academy kind of exists not just in a particular place in California, but in a sense it exists almost anywhere.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
In other words, it started out as a university without walls, and now it is an academy without boundaries.
Is it an exact continuation of the University Without Walls, or is it an offshoot?
It was a forerunner. We had in mind the Leonardo Academy, and it began like that because the man who was president at the Southern Illinois University was very interested in furthering our plan. He has now long ago moved to, he is in Oregon at Corvallis, what's it called? Oregon State. Yes, Oregon State. McVicker was his name. Actually, he hailed from Madison originally, but I didn't know him then.
Okay, well that really clears a lot of things up for me. And my only other question is, when is, I recall that you were giving a cello piano recital in Madison next month. When is that?
21st of April.
And that is what, let's see, a Friday?
It is Saturday.
A Saturday.
It is the day after Good Friday. 21st, yeah.
And what time is it?
It's at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
At the LVM Museum. That's right next to music school. You know where the telecommunication building is?
I don't remember.
Because it's right straight across. Well, it's do you know the humanities building is where the music school is? And it's right adjacent to that.
Okay. How do you spell it? E-L-V?
E-L-V-E-H-J-E-M.
LVM. Oh, I see. There's some chance that I could come to that, and
you might enjoy it.
I really...
We will premiere 3 little pieces that I have composed for the cellist.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Well, okay. Once again, it's really a great pleasure to work on this and to get to know you, and I thank you for your time.
It's mutual, Wagner.
It's been a very special experience for me, and I wanted you to know that. It's opened, it's an open doors for me. I mean, I'm reading about Busoni, and which is somebody, of course, I was very much aware of, but now even more so, and your own composition.
Tell me, did you get one of the original folders on the Leonardo Academy?
I can tell you what I have. It's a picture with a sort of triangle on the front called, and it's entitled the Leonardo Academy Center.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Then I'll try and find that and mail that to you, too, because you should see the original.
That would be great, yeah.
That spells out all the hopes that we had for gathering the many millions that it would take to build our own quarters and alone a library at that time, and that's 20 years ago now, calls for 15 million for the library. And that's something, of course, that only remained a dream. But what we spell out in the way of its aims, that it chiefly concerns itself with man's future. And this is what I think, if you mentioned it, the best service that you could do would be, for instance, to tell about the letters I wrote to Reagan and Dropov.
Yeah, those I have too.
Yeah,
and
because that's really what it hopes to accomplish.
Yeah, I'd like to receive anything, the original statement of purpose or proposals for the Academy. I'd like to get that too. Yeah, that would be
I also have one. It uses a beautiful emblem that we have from Leonardo himself.
Yes.
You have seen that?
I've seen that, and if that could maybe be worked into the artwork of the article, if you have
absolutely,
a copy or a print of that.
Yes,
that would be great.
That's on the front page of my Leonardo Academy brochure.
Yeah, we could get it. We could get it from there. Yeah,
it's blown up to about 5 inches.
Yes, I'd be glad to receive anything like that about the Academy, because that's got to be part of the article, the way I see it, and I think you agree.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is what one is still reaching for,
Yes. So that's my mission too now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, and I may very well see you on the 21st.
That would be good news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.